Bob your head a little bit. Yeah.
Feeling it.
You even got the face. I love it. Hey, welcome everybody to podcast number 61. We got a cool guest on our show today, former Blue Bomber. Before we get into that, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Our podcast sponsor is Strong Nation by Jenn. New age group fitness experience engineered so every high-intensity move is perfectly synced to music, helping students consistently push themselves past their limits. This martial arts-inspired, instructor-led class will have you moving, sweating, and hitting those calorie burn numbers while focusing on improving your overall technique. Strong Nation is always evolving, always changing, so your workouts will never be boring or predictable. If you're ready to unleash your inner beast, contact Jenn at jennifermancher@gmail.com. Did you know that she's a Zoom Strong instructor?
I do now.
You do now. You should see. She's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
She got quite the class. So anyways, the man sitting next to me, he's a former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, now the CEO of Cvets Pets. Is that how I would word that?
Founder.
He's the man. He's the man over at Cvets Pets and Full Contact Construction. Happily married with 2 kids. This family loves fitness and sports. He spent the last 8 years advocating to stop violence against women and spends that other time he has left working at a charity called Cvets Pets. He has a love of cribbage, interesting, video games, and binge watching Netflix. And his favorite movies are any that have Will Ferrell in it. Everyone, let's welcome Chris Cvetkovich.
Applause. I like the applause.
You like that? Not bad, eh?
I played for the Bombers. They didn't get that very much.
So when was your last year in the Bombers?
I retired in 2014, so 2013 was my last season there.
2013, and you were a long snapper.
Yep.
Right?
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Check stealer. Played 10 plays a game more than you.
So you had something interesting in your bio I didn't want to put in there. I wanted you to explain it about your highlight reel tape that you had submitted to get the job. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So
what happened there?
After my 5th year, I put together my highlight tape, and my receiver coach was like, "Why don't you put your best long snaps in there?" And my problem was I was like the 3rd string long snapper. So Rob Malone was our starter, and video footage back then wasn't very good. So I was like, "Man, I'm just gonna put Rob on my thing." So I put a bunch of receiver stuff, and then I put like 6 long snaps. I think 5 of them were Rob.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Saskatchewan signed me. Yeah. And they're like, "Well, you're a little big for a receiver. We want you to be maybe a fullback, and we want you to be our long snapper." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." Hung up the phone. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how to play fullback really, and I really don't know how to long snap." So I just spent like every day for 6 months snapping 50 to 100 balls a day, just trying to teach myself.
And then you became the greatest ever.
I was top 10 in the league when I was playing.
Yeah.
19 league.
Out of 10.
No,
cool.
So you know what? I lied to get there, but I worked my ass off to keep that job.
Yeah, you proved yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your career started with Saskatchewan then?
Yep, 2 years there.
Okay. And then, so give us the timeline of your football career.
So I played.
And where you played.
I played my 2 years in Saskatchewan, and then my 2nd year, I ended up on practice roster at the end of the year. And then what happened is at the very end of the year, when I was on practice roster, that makes you a free agent in the CFL.
Okay.
And we were getting ready for the first round of the playoffs against Winnipeg, and I got a call from Winnipeg saying, "Hey, you can stay on practice roster there, or you could come and get a game check here." I was like, oh, and I was living with some guys on the Riders. They're like, "You got to go. Well, you don't want to be a football watcher. You want to be a football player."
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I phoned Brendan Taman back, and I was just like, "Yeah, you know what? I'd like to come there." And they put me on a flight the very next day, and then it was messed up because like, some people in Sask were saying certain things about me. Whereas most of the guys that I lived with, they corrected that real quick. They were like Rocky Henry, Phil Gibson. They were just like, no, this is what happened. He got this call, and this is how it went down. It wasn't a sheep didn't stray from the flock type of thing. Like So I came here, and then it was funny because, pregame for that game, I know everyone in Saskatchewan. I knew like 4 guys.
Yeah.
Like, it was,
right.
But it was really, really interesting. But I mean, I was pretty fortunate in that I came to a very veteran team here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got here, like the veteran guys that I met here were the guys that I ultimately grew up like basically looking up to, like the Lamar McGriggs, the Milt Stiegels, the Kari Joneses, like all those guys.
Yeah. You played with Stiegel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played a bunch of years with Stiegel.
What is a guy like that like? He's a pretty intriguing dude.
He's as good a player as he is 10 times the person and the man and the husband. He told me a story because I lived in Headingley at one point, and so did he. So he'd always pick me up for a road trip. So we'd go to the airport together. And he would tell me all these stories, and some of them, one that always stuck out to me. He went to kids football practice, went to help out, and a little kid came up to him after practice, was like, I want you to come to my house for dinner because I know you don't have any family in town. So
A kid said that to him.
to Milt. He wanted to do that for Milt. So Milt went and talked to the family, said, look, if you guys want me over, you can't tell anybody, but I'll come over. And I mean, the only thing was like, no beef on his teeth, no pork on his fork. He's fish, he's chicken, he's super healthy.
Okay.
So he's just like, yeah, you know what? I'll do that. And he did that for this kid. And I always thought, like, that's so cool. And he never did anything for recognition. He just did it because it was the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those guys who taught me how to be a professional.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So when you guys are playing football, so let's put football, the sport aside. You guys are sitting in the locker room. He's one of the guys that might mentor you, give you some good words of advice. I imagine that you paid attention to everything he kind of had to say.
It was more what he did, his actions. To me, actions always speak louder than words. And you get these young, jacked guys that come in there and, you know, they're crushing McDonald's. They're all beefed up. And Milt be like, okay, let's do a push-up contest. And he crushes them all. And he took every day very seriously. He took care of his body really well.
Yeah.
But it was, to me, I was always blown away by how he took care of his family and his kids and his wife. And that was like the priority in his life.
Yeah.
Football wasn't who he was. It was something he did.
Yeah.
Being a dad was who he was.
Yeah, what's he doing now these days, do you know?
He
TSN.
yeah,
I think he
does the stuff for TSN. I think he still has some real estate in the States. And then I think like he held on, like he's the definition of short arms and deep pockets. Like he held on to his money here. And he like, I look at it this way. Like, I played with Charlie Roberts. I played with Milt. Both are, you know, they were both the face of the franchise when I was here. But the way Milt conducted himself, I don't know if Milt paid for much in this city. Like he saved a lot of his money. Yeah. Whereas Charlie, I can't say I don't know what happened to Charlie, but I just know Charlie.
He's talking Charles Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Charlie could have had this city in the palm of his hand as well.
Yeah.
But I look at the way Milt's received here versus Charlie, and it's very different. And they're just very different people.
Yeah.
Would you say that they're almost opposites? Because I've heard of Charles Roberts smoking and
I think who Charles Roberts is. He's a shorter
small
dude.
guy. Yeah, he took hits like nobody.
But he was, and you know, Charlie just. I don't think Charlie took care of himself the way Milt did because Charlie was very gifted, as was Milt. But Milt was like, I'm going to take care of myself. He knew his body was the investment. Mm-hmm. So I just very different. One was very much more professional, much more mature. I love them both. Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate to play with both because you can see how both operate.
Mm-hmm. Him investing into his body and making that his number one priority, I feel like that's probably something. That's a good message that I feel we should really elaborate on. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
How do you feel about that? Like, I know your kids. I've always been impressed by the fact that your kids that are 11, 12?
13.
12, 13. And since I've watched them on social media, always with a six-pack. His kids always got six-pack. So you obviously understand the importance of being in shape, having a great body.
Starving them, yeah.
No. Do they know what McDonald's is?
No, they do.
They
absolutely.
Do? Yeah.
You know, we'll go to Costco. We'll crush a hot dog for $1.99. We'll do all that.
Okay.
Ashley is, you know, my wife is, you know, she does half Ironmans, does triathlons. She's a beast too. Mm-hmm. She's represented Manitoba in Masters soccer for nationals. So I mean, she's a very athletic woman, and I grew up in an athletic environment, and I would just firm believer that if your body's healthy, your mind will follow.
Yeah.
And I mean, for us, it's just you know, even like my kids like to play video games. We give Hudson a rule. Hey, if you want to play 3 hours of video games, that means you have half that time in physical activity. Yeah. I don't care if it's jumping on the trampoline, shooting the puck, getting a workout in, whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
I feel if you even just set the tone, like you said, your actions. So for me, I'm always outside doing something. So like I just got a basketball hoop, and every day I'm out there shooting 25 baskets. I don't know. It's just something that I'm getting back into that competitive nature. And my kids will just come out and
they want to join the party.
They want to join the party. My 1-year-old comes walking down. He comes walking down the driveway, and he grabs the ball, and he's literally looking up at the hoop, and he's trying to put it in there. I'm like, you're one.
That's dope,
like,
though.
I know, right? I'm like,
good.
oh my God, where's this going to go? This is so good, right? Yeah, and it's just through your actions.
Well, a creature of habit, right?
Yeah.
If you sit at home and watch TV all day and just eat a bunch, your kids will probably do the same.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part too, especially now everybody's getting back to work, is to go home. Like, I'm beat. The other day I burnt 4,000 calories. I don't burn 4,000 calories. That's a lot of calories, and I was exhausted. And I still forced myself to get up and do something active with my kids. You know what I mean? And it's just like a workout. You're sore, you're tired. Just get up, start moving, get going, and the next thing you know, you got full steam ahead, and you feel great after doing it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that your actions obviously speak louder than your words. I feel like that saying, do do as I say. No, do as I do, not as I say. No, do as I say. Anyways,
What's the quote, audience?
I
What's
find
the
a
quote?
lot
Do
of
as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
That's what people preach.
yes, that one right
that's a good
there,
one.
and you see that all the time. Like a lot of people have the right intentions; they're trying to raise their kids to be this way. But if you're not doing it, they're not seeing it, right? And then they don't really know what to do. You can't really tell them one way or another. Now, I'm not a father, but I do see successful kids, and I see kids that are failing, and you can pretty much see almost immediately why or why not.
You're a
right?
coach, and so you do the workouts yourself, right? And so that's one of the things is that if you can't do it yourself, then how are you ever going to ask somebody else to do
100%.
it, right?
That's one of the things, the comments that we get. So anytime we post a milestone, like I just did a 600,
Which is crazy, 600
workouts, yeah.
Coaching and doing 600 workouts.
Yeah,
That's
and
impressive.
and somebody said, or several people said, just by watching you or following you or seeing how you live your life inspires me. So that's really nice. You know what it means that I'm doing that. So I'm not just talking; I'm actually doing, it, and that's what's important to me as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So what would you say some of the biggest learning moments that you had from Milt?
I think just being a good person all around. Just treat everybody well. Milt. We had a guy who worked for the Bombers. He passed away a little while ago. He was part of our media team, Sean Coates.
Okay.
And he was with the Bombers. He left, and he passed away long after he left. But I remember when he passed away, everyone loved Coatesy, and I remember Milt saying, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice." And that always stuck with me because I was like, "Wow, that's a really good quote." Like, yeah, it's nice to be Milt Stegall, but it's better that Milt Stegall is nice to other people. Like and I was always like, that is just such a cool thing.
Because he's as big as it gets as a celebrity.
Oh.
Maybe not so much right now, but I think that.
Well, I was a receiver in high school, so I used to watch him. So when I got to play with him the first time, I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then he jokes with you, and he never could say my name, so he just called me Stoykovich. But it stuck. And then I look, and I still have pictures of co-emceeing an event with him. I'm like, this is such a cool thing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the way things are going right now in society, I think I'm very fortunate that I grew up in pretty much most of my life in a locker room environment because I've met people from very different upbringings, very different cultures, everyone black, white, Asian, Indian. Like I've got to be in that environment. And I remember even watching Remember the Titans with Hudson, and he didn't understand why they didn't like each other.
Okay.
Because he's just like, well, why don't they like each other? I'm like, well, they're black and they're white. And he's like, but all your friends are black. I'm like, well, that's just football is one of those sports where there's a pretty good mix of cultures.
Big time.
And, once that whistle goes, everyone's fighting for the same cause and everyone's together. You don't see color other than like if they're wearing ugly green or something.
Yeah, whatever the uniform color is, right?
I'll tell you this, it's not that big in the Asian culture. In fact, most Asian moms will not let their kids play football.
No.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I was probably the only Asian that played football when I was growing up. Yeah.
I'm glad you actually brought this up. So in society today, right? Now we're going to get all political, but we probably should just because you're here to kind of debunk the theory. The way that the media portrays it, we hate each other. White people hate black people, right? If you were to listen to the media, but you as a person who obviously has played football and just like you said, is that the world we live in? Do we live in a world where we all hate each other?
No, I mean I think that hatred is a taught behavior.
Yeah.
Like when guys like Barron Simpson or Gavin Walls, when they would tell me that in the offseason they have to make sure they have a full tank of gas going through parts of Arkansas or Mississippi. That's because people down there have taught their kids that this isn't right.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing, everyone's talking about how it leads to tough conversations. I've had those conversations now with my kids because I'm like, white privilege isn't necessarily being rich. White privilege is I don't have to educate Hudson on how he needs to deal with the cops if he ever gets pulled over. Whereas some of the black athletes I played with, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's stuff I never even thought of.
Yeah. So, and you've heard actual examples of that from them?
I've heard crazy stories from guys. Yeah. And it's just like even just walking down the street. If I'm walking down the street or, Barron's walking down the street, Barron's automatically more intimidating.
Yeah.
And it's stuff I wouldn't even think of because I've never known that because I've just been immersed in that environment.
Right. And why do you think that is? Why do you think white people would be scared of a black person without knowing anything other than just seeing them,
And maybe it's stuff that is portrayed in the media. Maybe it's I have no idea.
Like I feel it has to be. What is the behavior,
I think it's something that you've grown up with. So in my case, I've never grown up with it, so I never even knew it. So I'm almost naive to it.
I know. I feel like me too.
And it doesn't necessarily even if you. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like I'm almost sheltered from it because I was like, oh, racism, that's burning crosses, police brutalities. I know a lot of good cops.
Yeah.
Black, white, whatever. I know a lot of good cops.
Yeah.
And that's a tough ass job.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's no different than, I played football with 60 guys. Were all 60 guys great guys? Hell no.
Yeah.
There's some dickheads in every business.
You got
You know what?
Big
There's
time.
some jerks on the police force probably, and there's some that are firefighters, there's some that are paramedics. There's some people that do good professions.
Yeah.
They're not great people.
Yeah. What's funny to me is when George Floyd got killed by that white police officer, the whole world was on board. We were all united as one planet that this was the wrong thing for him to do. And yet 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later, we're in a racial divide. We're in a racial war.
Yeah.
How does that happen? We were all united. How did this turn out to be like this? This is the question, right?
I don't know, because if you look at some of those protests, a lot of those protests have a mix of white and black. Like there's a whole bunch of different cultures there.
Lots of white people now I'm seeing protesting against this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's.
But
yeah,
yet,
yeah, it's.
so how do we hate it? Why do we hate each other? That's what pisses me off is.
I don't think we hate each other. I think there is a huge. There is an inequality.
Yeah.
People are treated different based on the color of their skin, which is stupid that it even still happens nowadays. And you know what? A lot of the black guys that I played with actually, what they would tell me is they actually liked coming to play up here in Canada because they're like, we don't see the racism that we do in the States. And if they do see it, it's towards First Nations or something like it's something different up here.
Right. Like I would like to see what actually happens down in the South or whatever you're saying. When you're saying they need a full tank to get through Arkansas. So what is a real story that would happen? They would stop at a gas station and white people would come and threaten them with guns or what?
Harassment and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of one that would come to mind. I've heard some stories and I was just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm trying to remember one specific. I can't remember one specifically, but I know it's a weird thing because they're telling it to me because they're opening up to me, and then I almost feel shamed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna feel like I need to apologize on the behalf of other.
I don't think you need to, because that would be like me. There's tons of goons in the fitness industry, right? And they say whatever they want to say. They do whatever they want to do. Just yesterday, my mom was trying to give me a lecture about how we shouldn't be promoting vape. So I guess she saw you with the shirt. And I said, Mom, I don't speak for Rick. I mean, if he crosses many lines or whatever, but I mean, that's a good friend of ours. We're supporting him. It has nothing to do with the habit or whatever it is. It's just, but then there's guys that take it way too far in the industry, and we've seen it firsthand, and, they don't speak for all of us.
No.
So I don't feel bad for that guy. I don't feel bad for my industry. That guy is his own man. He's saying whatever comes to his mind.
100%.
Whatever his actions are, however he treats that cause, that's up to him, but he does not represent me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we solve racism?
That's the big question. I don't think you'll ever, and there's going to be racism amongst each other, right? So
Sure, of course there is.
Perfect example. Yesterday we go for ice cream. I went for a long bike ride, brought my mom. My mom is white. Okay. I'm clearly look full Asian, right? And so we had the choice of a local Baba, so a Baba ice cream, or this brand new Asian dessert place that opened up right next to each other. I said, we're going to support local. We're going to support Asians. They're brand new. We're just going to go check it out.
White hater.
So yeah, we go exactly. So we go and we get this bubble tea, and I'm the one ordering. I'm the one paying, right? I'm obviously the one in charge, and my mom wanted half sugar, and if you know my mom, she's very open. She talks lots and
Yeah.
So anyways, we're outside, we're enjoying the drinks, and she's asking, so we wanted to get some customer feedback. They not only did they sent out one of the workers, but they sent out the owner. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking about how we can maybe I can draw some more business to you guys, right? I'm the social media guy. I know what all I got to do is one post. You know what I mean? And you'll get a couple customers, but she looked right past me and just started asking my mom all the questions.
Right.
So, I mean, if that,
So you took that as she might be smarter or more, have a better opinion because she's white? Is that what came to your mind?
No, she sees it that either A, Asians are cheap and we know it. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Or B, white people just have more white friends and white people spend more money. I don't know. But that's kind of like, I felt like a ghost in the room, right? Like she wouldn't even look at me and I was like, all right, my opinion does not matter to my own people.
And I wonder if that's fair on your part to her, because maybe she just went out of respect for the older person.
Oh,
you know
it
what
could
I mean?
be that too.
Maybe she just looked at it as that.
I didn't get offended to it. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Right. As you know, I was the one that I'm the one that can make this impact, but you looked right past me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could have been that, or it could have been racial. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not upset at it,
but
I just find it funny.
Do you see how there's an underlying, like now everything we do, we have to think, shit, is this racial? Is it racist? Am I saying the wrong thing? You know, like that's the only thing that bothers me in the world is now we're all on edge. And you're right about, like, say, white privilege or white guilt. You know, we were never slave owners. Most black guys now, or all black guys now, if you're alive, have never been slaves. So why do we keep talking about it? To answer my question to you is, how do you end racism? I feel like you just have to stop talking about it. Otherwise, it never ends.
See, I think you need to talk about it more.
But the problem is the talking never solves anything because the talking turns into yelling, right? And right now, Chris, we're at a point where we can't really say anything. The second we say something, we're immediately shut down with, well, you don't know because you're not black. So that's the problem that I'm running into all the time. And I would love to have debate and conversation, rational conversation. And I'm trying to understand history. I get it. But at the same time, if I'm not allowed to have an opinion, if you're immediately going to shut me down just because of my white skin, then the debate always ends in the wrong way, right?
But if it's a controlled dialect and there is no yelling, then that's how things get done.
Totally, absolutely.
Like a lot of these protests are great. The minute they start rioting, they're taking away from the message.
Agreed. Agreed. So how do we have good debates?
I think you just need good people to start them.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need people who are open-minded and people who are willing to listen.
Yeah.
Because you know what? A lot of the stuff that's going on with the black community, let's face it, the white community needs to be educated. Like what I never thought about walking down the street and you're just intimidating someone, or the fact that like I don't have to teach my kids how to talk to the cop. Those are things I never even really thought of. So I think you need to have discussions, but you need both sides open to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not productive. You're just going to spin the tires and
And I feel like, so the challenge is just like how you said. So you were immediately dismissed, right? Even though you're a social media expert, this person could have probably got excellent information from you. But she doesn't know. It's not like you're wearing a sign around your neck that says, I'm a social media awesome dude.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't know somebody's intentions before you start talking, how are you going to be able to find the right person? And maybe podcasts like this are the right way to do it. Right?
And I think we all just have to not listen to the select few, right? Like there's always going to be one. So, you know, you're always going to have one bad client, or you're always going to have one bad person sitting in a room amongst 19. So if you have 20 people sitting in the room, one person is going to be the bad person. Then what happens is that squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So it's usually that person that's yelling, and then all of a sudden that person is a virus. So they're connecting onto that next person. Now it's going to here, and it went from a controlled conversation to everybody to now you're in a debate, and then it turns into an argument, right? And so it's usually just that one person. So you just can't be influenced by somebody that is speaking louder or harder than you.
Or an extremist, basically.
Extremists, yeah. Like these guys will riot or they'll fight over anything. It could be whatever. But as long as they feel like, hey, I want to get out there and make this difference because I'm so strong and passionate. But it's like, is that really the person that you want to go to? Like, it's not who speaks the loudest.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, in my opinion, it's who speaks the clearest.
And I think at the end of the day, like you said, you have your lunatics on both sides, right?
Oh,
your
for sure.
extremists on both sides. The problem is that they get all of the attention. They do. It's their messages that media throws out there. So I look at them and I'm like, well, you're crazy. I'm not going to follow you. But then on this side, well, they're crazy too. But I think in the middle is where we all sit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But the middle doesn't get the ratings.
Yeah, we're boring. We're boring because we're not yelling at each other and
we're not fighting.
It's like any post you put on social media. The negative people are the ones that chirp in. 90%. I've had that problem with the charity. People who pipe in and say, "Oh, you should put money towards helping children or helping cancer."
Yeah.
There's people that don't do anything.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Always.
They got the
so
biggest
really,
opinions.
okay.
So let's talk about your charity, Cvets Pets. Is that what you're referring to right there?
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead. Why don't you explain it to us what that's all about?
So what we do is we assist military veterans and first responders that have service dogs for PTSD. And what we do is we make sure they get basically everything they need to own a dog for free. So crates, kennels, leashes, collars on an ongoing basis. So it's not much, but it's our way of like kind of giving back and saying thank you to a lot of the military people and the first responders for everything they do.
And what was your motivation in starting this? Did you have one person in particular? Or?
No, I actually started it to raise money for, I think, 4 or 5 local no-kill shelters, just because I love animals.
Okay.
I was working with Children's Wish and cancer care, and I was doing a lot of stuff but there was nothing about animals, and I just always loved dogs. So I was just like, man, I'm going to do this because some days I like dogs more than people. Most days, I'll be honest.
Some days, every day. Come on.
So I ended up just starting it like that, and then I met a veteran who told me about people who were taking service dogs and training them for PTSD. And I was like, oh, what's PTSD? And they're like, well, like shell shock, guys that come back basically. And he explained everything, survivor's guilt and how they have nightmares and reoccurring. And I was just like, wow, this is messed up. And I started to meet some people. And then when I started meeting these veterans, and they're the guys that looked like us, and I was like, oh, this guy, like, he's JTF, or he was infantry, or like, these are like some hardcore dudes, but they're super broken on the inside. I was like, that's mess. It didn't sit well with me.
Right.
And I don't come from a military background. I don't come from a military family, but I was just like, man, if there's anything I could do, I want to sort of go there. So the whole going into the military thing just happened organically. So, yeah.
So what inspires you to do something like that? I mean, I always feel like I'm never giving enough. My mentality is that I try to give as much to the world, to my people, but when it comes to actual physical charities, like I don't know. How does that, what is your motive behind that?
There is no motive, which is
like what attracts you to that? That's interesting, right?
You know what? I think football gave me a platform in that, like if we did a school visit, if I did a school visit on, like, what's something you grew up with, something hardcore that you grew up with? Like
well, I grew up in the North End. So
okay, so you grew up in a tougher area.
Yeah.
If I go to a North End school and you go to a North End school to speak, they'll listen to me just because I wore tight pants on the weekend. No, honestly, it's a blessing and a curse for an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So I was given that platform automatically just because I played football. I had nothing to do with my upbringing.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a violent neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that was it. But because I wore tight pants, it gave me that platform. So I was presented with a lot more opportunities to do charity work. They'd be like, hey, can you go do this one? Can you go do this one? Go do this one? And you're treated like a celeb and everything. So that's kind of a toxic thing when you're young, especially. And then I started to realize, like, I would do these events at certain places, like Agape Table is a perfect example. I did one thing for them one Easter, I think, and I helped serve a meal there. And I just met the people there and I loved it. And then I've gone back for like Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas for the past like 6-7 years now.
To serve meals.
And now Ash and I bring the kids. And we do that, and there's no media there. I'm just like, this is the right thing. And then I'm like, my kids need to see, not everybody plays hockey. Like, some people are on the grind.
Yeah.
And some people, not by choice of their own. Those are the cards they've been dealt. So, I mean, once I started to see that I could teach my kids stuff like this, and to me, school's important, but that stuff can educate you.
Yeah.
And keep you humble and keep you realizing the real things in life.
Yeah. I think that's when you start to appreciate the things you have in life, when you see how little other people have.
Oh,
it's a good life lesson.
It is.
Absolutely, yeah. So Cvets Pets, how does somebody support Cvets Pets?
They can go online, make donations. Right now, we're not running any events, but showing up to our events. I mean, we've had our big gala at the Met. You've come to that before. It's a pretty good time there.
It's
Lots
awesome.
of jokes. We have alumni. We usually have a couple veterans that'll speak as well.
If you ever want to run an event here, I'll coach it, or Rick will coach it.
Sure.
Cool.
You organize it all. I'm just not good at that stuff, but we can host a workout.
Yeah, you're the social media ice cream guy. I know you now.
I'll help you with your social media. I'll do all that stuff.
We're more than willing to work with you, whatever you want.
That's well, Rick's been in CSB. You guys have been helping me out for years. You did all our hats for a while. We were actually selling those hats.
Is that one of the hats?
No,
this one right here.
We were actually selling these.
I remember that hat
on base in Gagetown for a number of years.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So not only are you taking care of pets and military veterans, PTSD, you've also lent your voice to stopping violence against women.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing with that?
Well, that basically happened in 2012. The government approached the bombers. They asked for about 6 guys to speak up. And I was like, sure, I'll help out.
Yeah.
And another thing I was naive to, I just didn't realize it was that big a problem still. I mean, I was always like, I thought it was one of those things that kind of dissolved over time. And clearly I was wrong. So I ended up working with the status of women, and I did a couple PSAs for them. And then the next year, the bombers weren't doing anything. So I was just like, well, look, I want to organize something. So I started to bring more guys in. And now the bombers are fully on board with it, and they're doing it. And it's awesome. Like, kudos to Wade and them for getting involved with that.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys, I think I remember this. You during Bomber games, or maybe even on regular TV, you guys would get up there and just start talking about it. Is that correct?
Well, they put PSAs up on the screen and stuff.
What's a PSA?
So just like a
public service announcement.
But they would give us a couple scripts and they would have stats, and we got to pick the ones that we wanted to read. So some were about if you have children, some women are just trying to make sure their children or their pets are safe because they have spouses that are abusive. And then once I did the PSAs, we started posting them on Facebook, and I got a couple messages from girls I knew from high school and college that were like, "Hey, thanks for doing this. I went through this, or I'm going through this." And I was like, "What?" Like, I was like, "How are you?" Like, I had no idea that they were going through that. And then I had what happened is I ended up going to listen to Jackson Katz, who studied or he majored in women's studies, and he did this whole thing on men's roles in gender violence and domestic violence. And he was always just like, you hear about someone getting raped or abused, and your first response as a man is, shit, I'm a good dude, I would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I'm saying I'm a good guy, I wouldn't rape someone, that's not enough. Like, if that's the benchmark we've set, then it's horseshit, really, at the end of the day. I don't know if I could swear.
That's fine. No problem. I swear all the time.
Okay.
So if we can't say that though, or if that's the low standard benchmark, then what should we be doing?
Once again, this is about conversations.
Yeah.
When I first did those PSAs, the whole thing was like, hell, I'll do this because I'm going to protect my daughter. I don't want her ever getting in an abusive relationship. And then as I learned a little more, my gear shifted away from her and towards my son. And it was more about, this is how you be a man. This is how you treat a woman. This is, and it's funny because it's always described as a women's issue, and it's really the men's issue because we're the problem at the end of the day. I know there is violence, like some women are abusive to men, but majority of it is men towards women. So they used us as they utilize the Bombers because, once again, you have strong alpha males who are basically violent for a living.
Yeah.
And we can, when you have strong males that are willing to speak up, it helps, right? Like that's a big thing for the women in that community.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Alpha House now for 3 or 4 years. I've emceed their galas, and they're just like, I just want to help.
Yeah. How many galas or events, I guess, pre-corona were you doing?
You know what? I had to, because of my kids' sports and us having season tickets to them, I had to dial it back a bit. So I've pretty much worked with Alpha House. We try to do the Agape table and then Cvets Pets. I've left it at that, but I've been contacted a number of times to say, hey, would you be willing to do this? And I'm always open to it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's something I really don't believe in, but most of the stuff you're contacted about are really good causes.
So maybe we should come up with a way to combat racism. Maybe we should group up. We got a platform like this. You got a platform. You got a history, some celebrity status. Maybe there's something that we could do as a group of people to, get a message out there. Promote the conversation.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple as that.
Well, I think people have been saying that. Have those tough conversations.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say it, but who does it?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? Right. I think that's the challenge. So, but I guess maybe you just got to have a little bit more. Some logical conversations. So from Cvets Pets, so the Bombers, Cvets Pets, you're stopping violence against women. Now, not only that, but you have your own business.
Yes.
Sorry, what's the name of it again? Full Contact Construction.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that. The man of many things.
Many hats. Many hats. Look at his hats.
Yeah, I know.
You know what? I just started doing it. I was doing construction into my last couple of years of ball, and then I just decided I was going to go full time at it, and it just, once again, it kind of happened organically, and I was getting jobs based on the fact that I was a Bomber to start. So that worked out really well for me. And, as much as football used me, I used football.
Absolutely. So, you should.
Yeah. And you know what? My wife, 2 years ago, she left her job, and now she works full time with me. So now we're both there. It gives us a little more flexibility and time with the kids and stuff. So
is she swinging a hammer? Is she building stuff too?
She is. It's not her dream job, but when it comes to the freedom that we can do what we want when we want, she is on board for this. So she had to outweigh the pros and the cons, and she never has to worry about if she can get these 2 weeks off or summer stuff.
And working with the wife, it's you love it.
You know what? It's been actually pretty good for us. I'm actually on site a lot more, but she's got out there. She's painted a lot with me, and she's yanked off baseboards and done all that gritty work that nobody really likes to do. But
That Demolition's awesome. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's
hey,
probably
just say
the
if you
funner part.
sweep it all up, though.
Yeah.
So
And so when did you know that you could swing a hammer? Was this before your bomber career, or like were you always a handy guy with tools?
in college, I did a couple years where my summer job, I was working with a restoration company.
Okay.
And I was good. I was lucky. I worked with a good crew. So every time somebody's house floods or there's a fire or whatever, we tear things down. But they show me, oh, this was done wrong. This was done wrong. They kind of educated me that way. I didn't go to a trade school.
Yeah.
My background is marketing and accounting.
Really?
Yeah, which helps with business and
Sure.
Cvets Pets. But
Yeah.
I'm a business guy, so I like doing stuff with my hands.
Yeah.
So
It's actually one of the things that I'd like to do as well. What would you tell people who want to go into trades for a living? Would you discourage it, or would
No.
you encourage it?
no, I think it's I think it's a great job because there's so much work out there. The thing never understood is why the trade schools are so specialized. Like University of Manitoba, or I went to Concordia. Like, why don't universities offer trades? Because I know a lot of big dudes that would be great athletes, like football players, hockey players, whatever.
Yeah.
They go to they'll go to a trade school, but there's no sports at those schools.
Yeah.
So I don't know why universities never offered it.
One of the things that I've noticed about tradesmen, and this is just over the course of years. So my stepdad, I guess, he was my mom's boyfriend for 25 years. He was a great carpenter. And what I noticed about them is that they seem to always go in one direction. They're really good at what they do. They have all the endless work in the world, but they get into self-destructive behavior. A lot of tradesmen, they drink a lot, they smoke cigarettes when they're off. They barely work out. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to blow your knees, you're going to screw up your hips, your wrists are going to get messed up, carpal tunnel, whatever. And so by the time that they're our age, or my age, like say 45 or pushing 50, their bodies are broken. What I would like to do is, you know who Mike Rowe is? Mike Rowe, he's the guy who his voice is used in the show where they go out and catch lobsters.
Oh, okay.
America's Hardest Job or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, and he's a big promoter of tradespeople. And it blows my mind that they're not promoting this like crazy, and that young men, I guess some women, but young men wouldn't go after this because you're making a lot of money if you know what you're doing. Yes, there's a big startup with respect to all the tools. Yes, it's labor intensive and might be hard, but if you didn't get drunk every weekend, if you didn't smoke cigarettes all the time, if you didn't go self-destructive, I personally feel that the money that you make with the skills that you know, you could easily be retired by the time you're my age, 50 years old, and still healthy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so where is the narrative? Why haven't we created a narrative where we get these guys working tradespeople? We need lots of them, and then keep them healthy for the for the duration of their career, and let them retire young.
Once again, it's self-choice. It's like people are going to make their own choices. If you go to a trade school and you do your thing, and all your buddies are in accounting, but all your buddies you grew up with all party all the time, you're going to still party with those guys.
I agree too. Yeah,
You're a product of your environment to a degree.
Yeah.
So would you say that everybody's got to treat themselves like a pro athlete, whether you're doing accounting or whether you're doing construction? Like, take care of yourself in regards to sleeping properly, eating properly.
Yeah, I don't think you have to go to a pro athlete level. It depends where it is on your scale of importance. For me, I'm always like, okay, I have 2 active kids. I never want to be able to not do sports with them. You know, even if I'm slower than them. But I always want to be active, and it's just I grew up active. I didn't have video games very much when I was little, so we were just always outside. Now they have video games, so I'm like, well, now we need to take more of an approach to make sure you're out of the house and stuff like that. And for my kids, we're lucky. Like, we work out with them. We do workouts together. They see that if I'm on the floor after a workout suffering, they're probably going to be like, we all suffer together, but they're active because, especially my son, it's all about social for him. He wants to play hockey. He wants to do that with his buddies. He wants to play football with his buddies. He wants to play lacrosse with his buddies. He wants to just do whatever his buddies are doing. He wants to do it.
What kind of challenges do you find? So he's a father as well, 2 boys. You got 1 and 1. And they're at the age now, 12 and 13, where they're starting to turn into little adults, I guess.
Yeah.
What call them that?
Yeah.
Personalities. They can start maybe deciding a little bit of their future. I'm not sure. What are the challenges that you're seeing on the son and the daughter with respect to maybe good behavior or good ideas and maybe some bad ones? And what are you combating right now as a dad?
I think for us, it's just there's just a little bit of sass and attitude that comes from both of them. And I don't know where it comes from. I'm like, whoa, you can talk to your friends like that on Fortnite. Don't come at me like that. Like, I pay the bills. Like, I'll check my ID. It says I'm an adult. Like, you don't want. And with my kids, it's like, it's super easy for me. I'm like, look, here are 3 things. You don't be selfless, don't lie,
Yep.
and just be kind.
Yeah.
If you screw with any of those three, I'll go Chernobyl on.
Yeah.
And I have no problem. I will blow up. I'll take everything away. And I'm like, that's it. And if you're disrespectful to me, that's going to hurt you. If you're disrespectful to your mom, Ash hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that attitude and the way that you speak to people could probably solve literally most of the world's problems?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Speak
Yeah.
with respect, lose the attitude. I feel like, but yet you're a good father. You're a good father. I know lots of good parents, but their kids, they, for whatever reason, feel like they can talk, shake their neck, or
Well, you know what's
or be
weird too is I
disrespectful.
look at most of the people from our generation flat out just grew up getting an ass whooping.
Yeah.
Like I learned respect out of fear of my dad.
Yeah.
And I look, I'm like maybe my dad went overboard a couple things, but at that time that was nothing. When
Mm-hmm.
when I hear stories of like him and my mom was like, she was disciplined with 3 feet of garden hose. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that's nuts. But
Yeah.
I'm like I grew up, I learned respect out of fear just because that's the way I was raised. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
And that's not the way to discipline anymore. But I mean,
It isn't, but
taking a kid's iPad away doesn't really teach him a lesson either.
exactly. So what maybe, people say, well, you shouldn't beat your kids or you shouldn't whatever. Shouldn't we?
I don't think anyone is above an ass whooping.
Yeah.
That's from the president to
I agree.
a janitor. No one is above one.
I agree.
And I think there's far too many people that are. But I mean, once again, it's a totally different society. If you look at it like when we were in school, if something ever went down, you fought someone. You didn't have to worry about a knife or a gun. It's a totally different generation now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tough, man. It's got to be a lot of challenges for your dad, especially when your kids get to be another 10, 12 years old.
Oh, he's
right?
already starting. Yesterday he made a huge mess. He started playing with protein powder, and all of a sudden he's running around the house, and all I see is little footsteps. And it's it's a matter of how you react to it and what you tolerate. So that those would be the two things that I say is that what do you tolerate first of all, and then how do you react?
Well,
Because
there's nothing disrespectful about that. He was just being a kid.
he's just being a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how I reacted to it, I could either get mad and hit him, like Uncle Rick wants me to do, or I realize that
Throw toilet
that
paper at
doesn't
him.
work. It honestly doesn't work, man. Like I don't want to scare him. I don't want to bully him. I tried that. I'm going to take this away. It doesn't work. We just said, okay, let's do this together. Me and you, come on, let's clean it up. Let's make it nice in here for mommy. It's going to be awesome. She did a great job. And he grabbed this thing and he started cleaning up, man. But I got mad first.
Yeah.
And he just literally ran, and he was so scared of me. And I'm like, this is not the relationship I want to have.
Yeah.
I don't want him to look at me and wince. You know what I mean? I don't want that.
Yeah.
What I want him to do is to respect, a mutual respect, and understand the level of tolerance that we have in this household and the things that we can and cannot do. Otherwise, there's going to be some repercussions.
Yeah.
Now that you're young, we're going to do it together. When you get older, the mess you make is going to be the mess you clean up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it can go many ways. Like I know when my mom was in school, she would tell me, of course they rode horses to school and they walked up a mountain to school and all the things that we hear, right? But she did tell me about how they would discipline them. They would take a yardstick with little nails in it, and they would make you hold your hands, and they would hit you across the hands with this thing. That's how they discipline in school, You know what I mean? Never mind at home. I know my grandma, she was crazy. She would fucking beat those kids big time. But my mom never did that to me. I grew up without a father, so maybe, if he was around, maybe I would have got an ass whooping once in a while. But my mom never, ever slapped me, hit me once.
Yeah.
And I think I grew up very respectful. I know I would go to a friend's house and the parents would always say, oh, your son says please and thank yous. And he's always very respectful. So I guess to each their own, right?
I think it's going to evolve, like the way that the kids are going to grow up nowadays. Like I think violence, like physical violence, is going to be a thing of the past, especially now with this pause in sports. And, people don't really see that. Like in hockey, fighting is normal, right? And hitting.
But that's even getting taken away.
And that's what I mean. So I think that the world is going to evolve, maybe not within the next 5, 10, maybe 20 years, that there's going to be a new way that people are going to be handling things, right? Especially with this whole COVID thing, right? Like having the silence and, there's just going to be different ways that they approach things. I don't know what it is yet, but I think that it's going to evolve from that.
Oh, yeah.
You still talk to anybody in the Bombers organization and have an idea of how we're going to do this post-COVID?
Yeah, that was going to be my $1 million question.
Yeah.
Is football coming back this year?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea because, I mean, you hear about it in the States, they're going to do the NFL. Difference is NFL is such a lucrative TV deal that's worth so much money. It's different. The CFL just does not. I mean, I don't even think Montreal has an owner.
Oh, really?
Like a lot of teams just get by, and then we also have half our players are from the States. And
can't travel.
Yeah, like I think James Wilder, he just announced his retirement. He's going to go coach it because he's like, yeah, there's too much uncertainty. I can't.
Yeah.
In CFL, it's not like NFL. If there is a holdout, or not a holdout, if there is a pause on thing, a lot of guys have made enough money. You can probably still get by. CFL, I think average salary is like 60 or 70 grand. That's not going to carry you very long.
Yeah. No. Did you have aspirations of taking your career somewhere further than CFL?
Yeah, I did. In 2005, our punter went to Green Bay, John Ryan. Yeah. And then the next year, Green Bay called me because I was on all of John's tapes. So they're like, hey, can you come down? And I was like, for a workout. I was like, oh my God, I want to. But I'm like, I just signed a deal. So they talked to me one more time that year. And then the next season, Green Bay called me again. And I was like, I'm still under contract. And then I dislocated my elbow. And by that time, I was 27. Like, there's so many guys coming out of college. It doesn't matter if you're Division 1 or Division 3. If you could grip it and rip it and snap it, then So I had phone calls from Green Bay for 2 years, which I would have loved to have had the opportunity, but I was under contract. And I mean, I've seen guys that will go down to the States, though. They'll try it, and then if it doesn't work, they come back, and there's no job for them. Yeah. So I looked at it that way. I'm like, well, you know what? There's only 9 jobs in Canada. Yeah. The pay doesn't reflect it, but there's only 9 of those jobs in Canada, and I got one, and I held it down for a decade with one team. So I'm like, I'm pretty lucky. Yeah. Nice. All right, listen, we're already an hour into this podcast. Yeah. I got one question for you. All right, maybe 2. Depends on how you look at it. What kind of advice are you going to give to your kid? What do you want to tell your kid now? A little bit of fatherly advice. Actually, no. You know what? I'm going to reword that question. What are you going to tell somebody as somebody who's a true champion? You're a sports guy. You've created charities. You've created your own business. You got a happy marriage. You got 2 great kids. What kind of advice are you going to give people to have a great life? What kind of things are you telling people? Do what you love. You know what? I mean, just do what you love. And regarding parenting, you're going to suck at it. Everyone sucks at it. Well, because we're new to it, right? There's no way. Yeah, you're never going to be great at everything. Honest words. I love it. Well, it's true, right? Yeah. Like if I said, hey, Rick, go build me a house. This is your first house. It's not going to be very good. I'm not going to live in that thing. And every parent is brand new. We have no idea what we're doing. We don't know why you're crying. We don't know why does that upset you? It's serious. It's a fork. Yeah. Use the other fork. Yeah. But yeah, I think, you know what? As long as you do what makes you happy. And for me, I played ball. I have my own business. I have my charity. But for me, I have a wife that tolerates me. I have that kids. Makes a big difference. I have kids that make me laugh. And you know what? Get a dog. Yeah. Agreed. Get a dog. Agreed. So a couple of things I just want to say that I took away from this because I thought they were really good. Somebody was saying don't be a football watcher, be a football player. Short arms, deep pockets with respect to finances. Yeah. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. And no one's above an ass whooping. No. So we'll leave it at that right there, guys. We're going to sign out. Guys, make sure that you like, comment, and share this video. Go to our YouTube channel. Subscribe at Fit Club Media. Yeah.